while they're doing that, I'll tag you as soon as
Okay.
it comes up. There it goes. Let's see. Oh my God, I'm looking at a 111 on the board
I
here.
love it. Sweet.
Huh?
Sweet.
What's, oh, I can't tag you. That's right. You're restricted. Okay.
Okay, I don't even know what that means.
That means that you have your I think you have your profile turned off or block or locked. Anyway, I can't.
Oh, on okay, on
Yeah, I can't tag you, but you could go on to my page and share it. Whenever you want to.
okay.
Okay, let me just pull this back up now that we're having technical difficulties.
Yeah, technology is not my thing really. I'm very good at it.
Let's see here. Okay, groups. Boom, boom. And let me share it to the other pages. And let me flip on YouTube and X. Sometimes I think about, producing these shows, like everyone else does, all professional. And I think, hell, I've been doing it this way for 8 years. I don't need to change now.
Right?
All right. So here we go.
Hey,
It sounds okay. The sound's okay. Okay. All right, let's see here. Let me get this off of here, get this off of here. I've been scheduling all morning. Got a
have you
bunch of
been
shows
busy?
lined up. Yeah, we got a boatload of shows lined up, starting with this one.
Sweet.
Like I think about 16 in the next 7 days, if not 16 or 18. So, okay, there's a little backstory here. We've got a couple things to discuss. I met this soul sister on the beach in Bucerias. I was taking a day off communing with Mother Nature, my way, my style. And this woman walked up to me and said, "Aren't you Todd and Morgan?" Or I knew you guys were here, and I wanted to see if I could come find you. So she just walked down the beach, and I was sitting there. Morgan was in the house. I think she wasn't feeling too well that day, and yeah, so we got to meet and talk and spend some time together, and I learned some things about her. She's a lot like a lot of the sisters that I've had on the show over the years that are kind of in the background, but they're really the glue of Soulogy and communities like Soulogy. They're the ones that are always in the audience. They don't always say anything. They're the ones that send contributions. They're the ones that support the different platforms, and they're really the space in between that kind of adheres everything adheres to. It's like the mother, the mother's the space in between. So that was a nice encounter and experience. And we've kind of stayed in touch, talked about doing a show. She's like a lot of them. She said, maybe one day I'll come on and do a show with you. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I received an interesting email from her, or a message. And in that message, she said, I would like to talk about spiritual warfare. Let's see what the exact title is. Do you remember? Let me
Yes,
see.
spiritual
Yeah, okay.
warfare.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Spirit.
Spiritual warfare and mind control weaponization. Okay. Now, anyone that's followed Soulogy over the years, 4,000 plus episodes, you know, with the show itself, in the early days of Soulogy, before there was when the videos were really just me talking for a long time, um, there was a lot of I would go on a lot of tirades and rants and talk about 9/11 and talk about all the fuckery and the bullshit, and then at some point I realized I was feeding the monster, like a lot of us get to that point and we start to acclimate, balance ourselves, and start to not just see things in the proper perspective, but also to comment on these things in the proper perspective. And I think we've arrived to that point now, and it's really interesting because just in the last 10 days, 10 to 14 days, well, really, I would say since the first of the month, I I've had a couple of shows where this particular topic started coming up. And in particular, came up again for me 4 or 5 days ago, or maybe 4 or 5 days before you wrote me. And in just different dialogues I was having online and privately. And so it's something I've thought about and talked about over the years. And as I've kept tabs on the different platforms on YouTube, X, Facebook, disclosure, conspiracy, the lighter ones, the fluffy love and light ones. I'm not throwing shade on anybody, but just a little bit here and there of everything. I've always tried to find the center lane where we can talk about these things from the soul's perspective. So, and also recognize their presence in our lives, because there's so much that we have been unconscious of within ourselves, and therefore, as within, without, unconscious of the things outside of us. And now this is all coming to light. So we're not gonna be allowed to really, I don't feel, things that are put into our field are put into our field for a reason. We can't divorce ourselves from any aspect of the universe or the experience. We can, but in order to continue on this trajectory that we've been on together, all these crazy people that used to be called crazy, but we're not crazy anymore, because now all the people that said we were crazy are asking us what the hell's going on. We're all coming together, and now it's game time. Now it's really game time. And I know a lot of people have heard this as we move into the last part of the year and into this, as we're in the solstice corridor. And we also have the ironic presence of Three Eye Atlas, whatever that may be. And so it's a time when I feel what's happening is the individual expansion of consciousness within each one of us is growing in beyond exponential, beyond quantum, and it's moving so quickly. At the same time, the distortion is growing as well, in terms of it being presented to us in ways, in more frequency, and also more comprehensiveness. Like we had, what, 3 shootings in one day. That was was that a coincidence, or was that something else that was pre-planned and premeditated? I don't know. So to take all these things into consideration, I think is very important, because really that's what a soul does. The lessons come through the experience of living, and that means that anything that's put before us is there for a reason. And I think there is more and more evidence that what we are doing within ourselves is creating this stuff to bubble up to the surface for us to meet this space where the truth abides, lies cannot live, and dreams never die. I call it Soulogy. So welcome to the show, Lori, and thank you for bringing this topic of spiritual warfare and mind control weaponization to the table. You sent me some text, quite a bit of text, involving this particular subject. Now, I have always also tried to keep tabs on all the different things out there, so I'm very familiar with this topic, and I'm excited to be talking to you about it. If you want to, as usual with Soulogy, we don't rehearse anything. So if you would like to kind of give us an overview of what the technology is as you understand it, and I guess bring it full circle to the technology that is becoming more and more obvious or apparent or conscious in our consciousness, and also how you link that to spiritual warfare. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, as I said to you earlier, technology is not really I'm not great with technology. It's sort of, I appreciate everything you've brought to the table, because, what artificial intelligence is being used for a lot of different things, but it's definitely to get control of our minds, because the whole energy of keeping us in fear keeps us in control. And listen, there's no good or bad. Okay. Humanity has created what we've created. There's shadow, there's light. A seed grows in the dark, right? So everything teaches. But the reason I brought this to the table is because I had a personal experience I walked into a situation where I was the whole agenda was to put me under mind control. So I came forward because I want to share this story so that we can bring it to light and people are aware of what's happening. And the fact that I was able to actually walk out of the situation, that I had the tools to walk out of it without having it take over me, is really what my agenda is. So I think we're maybe coming from different places, because I
No,
can
no, no,
tell
no,
you,
no, no.
okay,
We're not coming from
okay,
different. No, no. Let me just preface here. Okay, so we're not coming from different places. In fact, it's the same place. Now, the value for me, one of the great values of this platform for me, this doing what I do, which is to me one of the greatest positions I could be in the multiverses, because it's fun and it's intriguing and it piques my curiosity. But the vehicle for this program really has been through the retelling of the personal experience.
right,
So I fully believe 1,000% that as you unravel the story and share the story, there's going to be a collective code for many people. But I think also at the same time, with what I've noticed this year, especially since mid-May, when I really started to pick this back up to the old pace that we used to have in 20 up through 2023, there's a sequential cohesiveness to these shows. There's a synchronistic aspect that's become more profound, especially as the year's gone on. And as we've moved into these last few amazing weeks, which have been absolutely just a grind, of the heart and the soul and the mind and everything else, I've noticed that it's gotten more acute. So I feel like that with the information that I might have picked up over the years, we'll be able to kind of bounce off each other. And I think we're on the right path, is what I'm saying. So please tell us your story. I'm excited to hear about it.
okay. I guess let's just to backtrack. I thought you were asking me specifics about the technology, and I really have very general
Yeah.
information about what kind of, like, I've done a bit of research
Yeah.
about what I think they were using, right? But yeah, I basically went to stay with a friend, someone I hadn't seen in 15 years, and I rented a room in his house for a couple of months and had no reason to believe that there was anything other than, a good friend, helping me out, giving me space for a couple of, months to whatever. And just very agreeable. It was a very peaceful place. It was beautiful. I was really getting grounded there. I felt really good there, to be honest with you. And then sort of some little subtleties started coming up. It was like, I'd be thinking to myself, like, we'd go for groceries twice a week. I didn't have a car. We were out in the country. And I'd be thinking, I really need to get to Walmart to get a few things. And then all of a sudden, he'd send me a text message and he'd go, "Oh, well, I'm heading out to Superstore. Let's go to Walmart too." And I was like, "Oh, that's synchronicity, right?" I'm thinking it's all pretty groovy. No, no, nothing. That's pretty cool. And this happened a couple of times with different things. And then it was the bulk bar. And I was like, "What?" I'm like, "You're like a genie. Every time I need something, you just sort of appear." So at first, it just started like this very synchronistic, wow, I'm manifesting instantly and whatever. And then some cracks started showing in the foundation, like things he would say something to me that I knew I had told him, right? I was having a conversation with him one day. He's like, "Oh, well, I went out and did such and such a thing." And he goes, "Well, you told me that already." It's like, I couldn't have told him. Like, just thought these little things started coming up where I was going, something isn't right here. Just even things like, and it's like what my mind was being read. Does that sound crazy to you? Like, does this technology read our minds? Dude? Oh, you've cut out on me.
I muted myself so I could hear you.
There you are.
No, no, I absolutely, yes, it does.
Okay.
There's no doubt about it. Psytropic warfare, implanting thoughts,
Thank you.
reading
Yes.
thoughts, uh,
Thank
you
you.
know, let me just say this real quick, just to give us some backdrop, and then you please continue. But as an example, okay, we could talk about a lot of different aspects of technology. Okay,
Right.
I could tell you because I'm a history buff and I research hours and hours and hours, and a lot of people probably don't realize that, but as particularly in like 2012 to 20 maybe 18 17, and I still stay on top of everything. But just as an example, AI.
Mhm.
If you look at AI in general, doesn't have to be specific to thoughts or that type of thing. Uh, they really kind of rolled this out about 3 years ago. right? Remember,
Yeah.
open chat, open GT, whatever these names are.
I
They
don't use
popped
them.
up and they started proliferating and really started to be seen and people started to use them. And this has been going on, what, 3 years, maybe? I don't know. It couldn't be much more than that. Just understand that whatever we've been given, okay, they've had for 50 years.
Yeah, I know. It's been
Okay.
going on a long time.
So imagine what they've been able to uh, piggyback on that or, expand from. Okay.
Right.
Just imagine that. Okay. Another example would be, NASA when we went to the moon in the 60s, whatever that was. Those computers were one millionth of the power of this. Okay. So, if you look at these things under the hood, because there were certain things that leaked out, and I would say in the 40s and the 50s and the early 60s, and then they shut it down.
Right.
Okay, so it's I think it's important that we start to talk about these things because as they come into our conscious awareness with the level of expanded consciousness that we have individually and collectively, we're moving to a point where when it comes into awareness and we basically figure this shift out, then we neutralize it. It's not,
Right.
you know what I mean? So
Exactly.
that's a powerful thing to be informed. And so the days of looking away from the dark and looking at the fluffy love and light only are over. This
Yep.
is what we came here for. And that means that every degree that's within this 360-degree sphere that I abide in, that we abide in, is to be recognized first within ourselves, obviously, and then we work out the kinks by these discussions is my belief. So yeah, please
Mhm.
continue. Thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So the mind reading thing, I had a hard time getting around, right? Because I mean, I don't know that much about technology, but things were happening. Like I was in my room and I was journaling, and I'm on, I'm here to assist humanity through this transition we're going through, right? And to help build a new earth. So I had this idea in my mind, and I was thinking, okay, how can we, you know, get get uh, everybody fed and a roof over everybody's head? Okay, if we started there, how can we get that happening? And I'm thinking this in my head, and I was doing some journaling and stuff. And then I went upstairs and he starts saying to me, well, what about income tax? I'm tired of paying taxes. And I'm thinking to myself, what? Like it was just really odd. And then I went back to my journal and I'm like, did I write this down in my journal and someone took a picture of it? Or like, I couldn't figure out. It was just so weird. But anyway, it just started getting like he was starting to talk to me, you know, um, having conversations like telepathically, if you will, right? Which, okay, you know what? I'm all about that. But he's not on a spiritual journey. This guy's not on a spiritual journey. I know that. But anyway, we're having these conversations and all these dark thoughts are coming in, all this dark stuff. And it didn't take very long for me to figure out because see, he's got two young guys in the house in the living room. They're sitting in front of the big screen TV tech all day. One kid doesn't even leave between sleep and food. He's in front of that. So they're tech experts, right? They're always walking around the house with their headphones on, da da da. So at some point I realized that I was being surveilled and that my phone had been tapped. Because a lot of things that were unfolding just could only have been through the phone. So I stopped turning my phone on. I just turn it off and leave it in the drawer. In fact, this headset, he gave me this headset, like just all these things. I don't know if there's a bug in this or I don't know how it all works, right? But anyway, at some point, I just started leaving my phone and I was just hooked up to my laptop. And I don't really recall what happened. I'm still, I think, recovering from it all. But at some point, I realized that they were using mind control on me. So, of course, my thoughts are going, because, of course, at some point I started thinking they're reading my thoughts. So I'm trying to keep my thoughts clean and pure. And, I'm thinking things about them. And I'm just like, okay. But yeah, at one point I was just like, this is mind control. This is mind control. This is mind control. And I had no vehicle. I was out in the country. I had no way to get out of there without them or someone in the house. And so I just started packing my backpack and I thought, I need to get out of here, right? I wasn't in fear though. I had no fear, Todd. And you know why? Because I've spent the last 9 years mastering my thoughts, right? So this was definitely designed for me. I know that I was meant to have this experience because I can now help other people and share the tools I used for them to not get taken over. But anyway, I packed a backpack, and then his father, his older dad, lives there. And I went to him and I said, are you going to town? He said, yeah, I'm going for about 4 hours. I said, can you take me in, drop me off at a little cafe or whatever, which he did. And then I got online and I'm thinking, okay, how do I get out of here? But I was just so stunned by it all. I reached out to a few people because I didn't really know anybody there anymore. And I ended up going back there then. And I managed to reach a friend of mine the next day that I hadn't seen in a long time. And I asked her if she could come and get me. And I mean, it's not an easy thing to share with people. Think you're crazy. Somebody's reading your thoughts and, like, come on, it's not an easy thing to prove, right? Because there's nothing tangible, right? But anyway, long story short, when I went upstairs and I had asked the older gentleman if I could get a ride with him into town, I was sitting there with my backpack, and these guys, they were scrambling. They just didn't know what to do. Where are you going? Is someone coming to pick you up? I could see that they didn't know what to do because they were expecting me to be in terror, right? That was the whole agenda, was to get control of my mind and have me in fear. And instead, I was sending them love. I was sending them love. Whenever the shadow would come in, I would just send them love. Or at one point I was sitting in my room and I just sang Sunshine on My Shoulder by John Denver. And I don't know, I just didn't get afraid. And I literally went and got things set up with my friend. I spent a couple of more nights there, packed up my things at my own leisure, gave away some stuff. I literally walked out of there. And the guy who was my friend did not look me in the eye, did not speak to me, did not ask me where I was going, nothing. And I just walked out of there. Now,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say there's a lot there. I've had experiences like this before. I had them early on when I reawoke in 2011, 2012 with other people. And then through the years off and on, little occurrences, but I had some big occurrences in those early years.
Yep.
And the only thing I want to interject right now is, this is a great example. As the individual goes, so goes the collective. Your disposition throughout the experience, your balance, your open heart, your I would even say fearlessness, courage, wisdom. This is something that we have all turned on within ourselves because of the work we've done within ourselves. Now, the point I want to make is, it doesn't really matter whether this is a tech-based function or some type of ethereal higher intelligence level of apparatus that is working directly to the individual, working through other individuals, controlling other individuals. The whole point, and the way I love about the way that you're explaining your experience and how you experienced it, is the way that you maintained your sovereignty and the way you maintain your perspective that it's all external. Okay. So it doesn't matter what the origin is. Okay. Because it's all about power over or power giving over. Okay. And
Mm.
so that's a really, really powerful story that you're telling. And I just want to give you props on that.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. I mean, for me, it's just like, yeah, I mean, it's still unfolding. And the truth, I think it's some sort of cult going on, but I agree with you because for me, the whole experience was a gift. It was a gift because you know what? I have worked long and hard on my mastering my thoughts and healing my wounds and getting grounded and stable. And it hasn't been easy for any of us. It's like, this is challenging work that we're doing. But the work that I've done is working. And honestly, I send love to them. And even when I was in the house, I was sitting there in my thoughts and I was just sent love to every person in the house. And I thanked them, for what they were teaching me about myself, because I was seeing I literally had no fear. And the truth is that that's the game, right? As soon as you get into fear, as soon as you let yourself get sucked into fear, lots of dark things can happen to you because you get sucked into that timeline, right? It's all about your energy. And if you let yourself get into fear in your mind, then your body gets your whole vibration. And now it's harder, it's challenging to get out of, right? But I mean, ultimately, it is about our sovereignty, isn't it? And the truth is, who's holding the power? if all these people are trying to get my energy, who's got the power? Go within and find your own power source. A true master stands in his own power. So if somebody, and this is information for people out there, if somebody's trying to get your power, somebody's trying to get you in fear, you're the one with the power. Because if you have power, you walk in it. You don't go trying to suck energy out of other people, right? But I think the important thing is for people to have this awareness that this technology is happening. It's so subtle. It's so, I don't even have the right word for it, but you don't even know it's happening. You're having, like, it's just pretty intense. And I think it's going to get more and more intense. And for me, the important thing is to get tools out to people so that we can get, we need to get, it's time for strategy. It's time to come together, right? You're out there. Look at all these beautiful people coming on your show. We're all over the place. There's way more of us than there are of them. And I mean that in terms of shadow and light, not that there's bad guys trying to get us or that there's, I don't know to me, it's all humanity, right? We're all here for the evolution of humanity, and everything we go through is about evolving and becoming better, right? And living through the heart, because we're a heart-based race and we've had to go through all this egoic, life because it's what we built. So it's not working for us anymore. We have to serve its purpose, and it's time to live in a different way now. So we want to start building that. We want to start coming together. But I look at it and I think, what is it? The story is there's 5 billionaire families ruling the planet. Well, there's billions of us. So we can come together and take our planet back, right? Like, and have us living through the heart instead of, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we're doing it.
Yeah.
I think we're doing it. And, just
Yeah.
to give it a little bit more foundation, I've talked about this before. My stepfather was in the CIA for 25 years, a very high
Wow.
ranking. He was in 5 Oval Offices. He was I guess they don't have that type of designation, but he was like a colonel level, very, very big player. Anyway, he wouldn't share a lot. I was like 16, 17, 18, when we would have these talks. And one of the things he told me, he said, there's 13 families that run the world. And this is common knowledge now, right?
Right.
He also talked about a few other things, like this is in the mid 70s, they had a goon squad that would go out and silence and by any means necessary anybody that had a cancer cure, or they had another one for UFO retrievals, and so, and I could go into the history of this, going back to World War II. When we talk about the history has been rewritten, it's been rewritten. And I would highly question the historical account of World War II and who won the war. Because if you
Right.
look at the bulk of the, let's just say the energy complex that we would call Nazi Germany or whatever you want to call it, the Third Reich, they lose because they populated NASA, which is really not a space agency. It's more of a
Right.
military intelligence. They populated CIA. And we could go through all that, but I don't really feel like it's necessary. Going back to what you said, I think we've been doing it. By doing the inner work, we've been doing it.
Yes,
And
it's
and
true.
here's the other thing I would say. We unconsciously were subjected to TV programming, which was very, very powerful. And this is why I don't watch Netflix anymore. I don't watch shit. And
I don't.
even half of what's on YouTube, I don't care if it's a Lightwork or a Starseed platform, it's psyops. Okay. And
Right.
that's just the way it is. Now here's the thing. So we unconsciously were subjected to television programming. We were unconsciously subjected to mind control, fluoride, okay, pharmaceuticals, GMOs, chemtrails, etc., vaccines, etc., etc., etc. There's more and more discussion about the nanoparticles that are sprayed on us one way or another. There's more talk about the nanobot technology that's come through these vaccines. And, all you got to do is a little research on these things now because it's all out there. Now, what's the whole point of this? The whole point of this, and remember, Tesla created wireless communication transmission at the first of the 1900s. Okay. So again, the technology's been hoarded. It's been kept just like the esoteric knowledge, but they're still putting their shoes on just like you and I, regardless of what their level of hybridization is or whatever the case is. My point is that we've overcome all this, that through our conscious efforts, of self-transformation, self-awareness, responsibility, accountability, we have risen above all of these things that have been thrown at us. And if you just look at the shootings that occurred, the Charlie Kirk thing as well, any and all other false flag frequencies that have occurred, even really since 9/11, if you look at the impact that they've had, the looshing impact that they've had, it's lessening and lessening and lessening and lessening. Why is this? It's because our consciousness is expanding to a level through individual enlightenment and awareness, and also the collective, as within, as without. We're a team, we're a network, we're connected to each other. So a big part of your message to me is kind of like, let's connect the dots here together. Okay. So I would just remind people of that. For us to be presented with anything that looks like it could have power over us or is a threat to us is exactly what the doctor ordered. It's no different than our personal shadows or anything else like that. This is game time now as we move into the end of 2025, and the individual expansion is going to continue to ascend, right, and expand, and the distortion is going to parallel it. So when people talk about two worlds, I believe these are the two worlds. And but make no mistake about it. I think there's a lot of ways to look at this. You can either say it's a death program, you can say it's a fear program, or you can say it's a program where the archonic influence, which cannot manifest anything, can only present through distortion, okay, is trying to tell us that we're just human beings. Well, we're not just human beings. We are soul. And the exciting part is that the human being is on point of the multidimensionality, moment by moment, in this deep physical density. This is the most powerful move the universal has ever been privy to, and we're on point. And
Yeah, we are.
so I think it's a very important to have these discussions without getting into they're the bad guys, they're the boogeyman. And the point,
Right.
well, look, we know there's fuckery going on. We know this, okay? So let's stop beating a dead horse, and let's continue to do what we're doing and start to acknowledge the things that we've gone through consciously and not, that we've been able to transmute and transform through the experience for ourselves and the collective and the universal. Start to give ourselves some credit now as human beings that came through this density, or through the human being vehicle, through the whole program and psyops, and also start to take it easy, man, on ourselves, and take it easy on other people. There's a lot of promotion of division and separation. That's what these false flags are doing, and all the propaganda and all the bots online. We're here to make up our own mind, and we have a unified mind. The only thing that keeps us from that unified mind, unity, oneness, is our belief systems that we're still buying some bullshit. You know what I mean? So thank you for letting me go off on that rant, and I'll give it back to you.
Oh, wow. I just absolutely love you, Todd. I mean, you're amazing. I just didn't get a chance to thank you at the beginning for all that you're doing in this platform that you're putting out there for people like myself and all of us to come together and share what we're going through. I've been so isolated, to be honest with you. For the last 9 years, I've pretty much been in solitude doing my work. So I don't follow the news. I don't feed any of my energy into the old paradigm in that way. But I agree with you, certainly the spiritual education. Some of it's really helped me, but some of it is just, I mean, it's just a game. It's just a game of energy, right? And I think that it's important for people to understand that, because I was thinking about how can we come together, not that we have to go underground because we have nothing to hide, but how can we sort of all come together, and then I was thinking, eventually we're telepathic beings. Well, not that we are telepathic beings, and eventually that's going to be the internet. Like, this technology has nothing on us. It really does. It has nothing. Like, when you see it for what it is, right? Because it's just simply designed to bring about a certain frequency. And it really is about mastering it. It's an opportunity to raise your vibration. And at the end of the day, Gaia is rising up, as we all know. So whatever shadow energies that are trying to, I don't even know how to put it into words, but trying to maybe take over things, it's like it's over. Is it even, I mean, love is one, right? Has it
Well,
not?
here's the way I look at it.
Oh,
There used to be a family. I don't know if they're still around. When I was a kid, when the circuses were big, right, and they would show them on TV, they were called the Flying Walindas. And so that's where I've always looked at it. Look at it as if we're walking the 0 point, the tightrope, at 200 stories high off the ground. Uh, but there's a net underneath us, you know, there's a net. And that's the point. We can never, yeah, has love won? Love is the only force there is. That's it. We've created this incredible playground. Uh, how I used to ask Franco this all the time. Franco de Nicola, what is the difference between the etherical or the non-physical and the physical? At some level, it loses its physicality because in the physicality, to me, it becomes a pretty easy way to navigate because I know everything outside of me is really representing the same thing. But if you get into the non-physicality, the only difference is you might be unconscious of certain things around you or certain things being applied toward you or projected towards you. But wasn't that the same journey that we had in the dense physicality with our friends and our enemies, with narcissistic, empathic relationships, codependence, toxicity? The entire realm has that characteristic, whether it's this unseen force, whether it's the government, whether it's the CIA, whether it's NASA, whatever it is. It's a narcissistic template that we have that we are deconstructing. And the way we're deconstructing this, and we've got to give ourselves some credit, is through the internal brutal honesty of the soul, where we have these conversations with the little Todd and the big Todd, right? And to start to understand that there's some real traction that's been developed over the last 12 or 14 years as a result of these seemingly mundane and minuscule tasks and behaviors and actions of the human being in consideration of the multidimensionality. So where we thought we were the redheaded stepchild and the most powerless one was nothing more than a mind fuck. That's all it was. And we're coming to terms with this. And what's happening is the quicker the more time goes by, the quicker it's happening, and we're not even able to actually see the progress until we look back at the wake now and then, and you can, oh my God, we did this, we did that, we came through fluoride, we came through GMOs again, yeah. So this is breaking everything wide open, and again, there's the thing about, well, this is a time that's been prophesized, and I look at the Bible, Revelations, all of those texts as not being 100%. Somebody
correct.
took them and massaged them. Somebody had that was a psyops. We're talking time travel here. We're talking messing with timelines. We're talking about not did we just come out of all the stuff that I talked about in the physicality, but we came out of all these alternate timelines that were created by all these different diversions and interferences, okay, and interruptions. We're not just neutralizing the past and the future and bringing it to the present moment. All these things laterally in our experience are real things. Anything you think of is real. So we're getting to a point now, and this is where this is where I don't want to really use this word, but this is where the battle takes place. The battle is taking place in our thoughts,
In our mind.
right? This is it. Our thoughts are things. Our thoughts are what drive everything. The thought is what created the separation in a good way when the mother basically split the first soul, the first cell, and said, I'm going to have a partner, and now the whole dance starts, okay? So my point is, this technology and those things we may not even know about are in that arena with us. And yet still in that arena, I can find my sovereignty, I can find my soul, I can declare my soul, I can declare my sovereignty against an invisible antagonistic energetic influence of any kind, okay? And that's the case. And this is one of my exercises that I've done over the years when when you start to rattle or get imbalanced or really get down with the soul and say, okay, am I just talking a bunch of shit, or am I a soul? And
Right.
so I'll pull up Now think about this. For anyone who's had experiences, let's just say with angels, okay? And I have, and I'm sure many of you have. There is a moment when you're looking at this profound uh, expression of the universe, which is really a reflection of you, and it's so profound, something like that can almost be scary. You know, you want to get on your knees and just bow, but that's not what they want. That's not the point. Now, the same thing can be said for the darkest demon that you can pull up and conjure in front of you as well. Now, this isn't like I'm not advocating for people to do this because I know I'm a little bit crazy, but the bottom line is I've always ended up in the same place, and then the same place has always been in that 0 point field, which is I'm understanding it as time goes on. It's not this thin trapeze wire, okay, with a net under it. It's it's the entire spectrum. We just we just have different experiences and perceptions and perspectives as we take different avenues and angles throughout this spectrum. And so, what do you have when it's all over? What did you have coming into this thing, and what are you going to have when you leave this thing? And
Right.
you can get into even the mood. I'm not saying it is or it isn't, people. I'm just saying you can get into the reincarnation trap, and you know that the moon is reincarnating us, and don't walk to the light. Well, what do you think we do as souls? What we do as souls, and this is where we exercise our free will. We choose to have these incarnations. We set a basic template out. We set basic obstacles and objectives. And this is what we do. And we gather information. So we come into this thing and we leave with what we came in with, that infinite soul, whatever you want to call it, the soul lineage. But the difference is we have an experience in between, whether you had one human life or 1,000 human lives. The experience provides new code and well, new experiences, and through those experiences and through the further alignment of our soul, universal will, free will, merging as one, highest intent, unconditional love, we develop new universal code. I was told 12, 13 years ago when all this started for me. I was told when you guys get done with this summary life, this end of the road cycle of cycles, you will be universal soldiers. You will be able to go anywhere in the multiverses because this is a universally multiversally seeded planet like none other, and you carry all the codes, and you'll be able to go and do the good work. You know what I mean? So, you know, this is an exciting time, but we still have things that we need to bring to the surface. We don't have to do it in a rebellious way. Just simply bring it out on the table and call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? And call them out. And it's starting to happen. Look at what happened in Bulgaria last week. You know, you got 1 million people running. Yeah. So you're right. There's, as David Icke says, it is a cult, but there's only, I could feel this apartment with all the people involved. And then you've
Yeah.
got us on the other side. So there's like 8 billion to 1 here. So, but
Right.
yeah, yeah. Thank you.
I think that the part of it too for me is just helping the others, like who is struggling. I mean, many of us, are like I've been working pretty much on a full-time basis on my mind mastery, whatever you want to call it, my spirituality, um, for 9 years. And I mean, there's a lot of people out there that haven't had the opportunity to do that work on themselves. So for me, it's like how, I know that energetically I'm helping, everything I do goes back to the collective, but there are people out there who are walking around in a lot of fear and they need tools to help them get through that. But yeah, I mean, we don't need airplanes, right? You know that. Like, what are we
Oh,
doing?
well, you
What are
mentioned
we
you mentioned
doing?
you mentioned the technology. You
Yeah,
mentioned the internet,
yeah,
and again, as within, without. So, what is this? This is a reflection. This is a reflection of ourselves. It's kind of a hint of what we contain within ourselves, and many of us are having more and more telepathic experiences and synchronistic experiences,
yeah.
and it's not slowing down. And these people know that. I told this story a couple of days ago. I don't know if you're familiar with Project Looking Glass. Are
I've
you
heard of it, but I
okay?
don't.
Project Looking Glass was a technology, I believe, that was actually discovered. I don't know, because it comes out in bits and pieces, but it may have even been in the 50s or the 60s. But in the early 90s, it kind of progressed, and there was a whistleblower that came out a few years ago, Project Camelot, and there was a couple of them actually, but this guy got more mileage, and you still see the video out there. And basically, what he said was, now Project Looking Glass was a level of technology that you could, and I'm sure there was quantum computer, aspects involved, or for quick analysis and so on, where you could look at the past, go into the past, kind of like another copy of what's been going on in the invisible realms, you might say, the time traveling, the fucking with timelines and such. But what happened was when the different possibilities hit said there was multiple timelines. It hit
Mhm.
2012. It hit 2012. No matter what they did,
Right.
there was only one outcome, and that's the timeline that we're on now. So the powerless powers that be, the lesser gods, which is probably the best description of whatever narrative, fallen angels, what you want to
Right.
follow, is they know what's coming. And the way that the guy explained it at the end, he said, it's like you got two chess players. There's five moves left. The powerless powers that be, the controllers, know that they're going to lose. There's not a damn thing they can
They've
do.
lost already. They've
That's right.
already lost.
That's right. So
Yeah.
so basically, what's happening now is just, it basically just going, spitting and bitching and
Yeah.
just trying to raise hell on the way out the door. You can see the false flag frequency falling flat on his face. You can see a lot of things, a lot of narratives and dogmas are falling on their face. Let me just give you another example, and I'm not political, and everybody knows that. If you look at the whole Trump thing, it's a perfect example. Okay. And it's one of many. You know what I mean? It could have been the people in Bulgaria before they took the government down and got tired of their bullshit. Right. So now a lot of people are starting to go, hey, man, this isn't what I was told, you know? So everything that we attach to outside of ourselves, whether it be love or hate or anything in between, is going to fall on its face until we come back to ourselves, which we've all done, and it's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of drudgery. We've all said, get me the hell out of here from time to time. I just did it last month. And yet we're still here because the fact is our souls are in the driver's seat even before we knew they were. And before we even, as we progress, before we even have come into full alignment from the conscious human standalone level. You know what I mean? So this is the big time. And this is what we've been waiting for. And many women like you that I met over the years told me, in one way or the other, that the day is going to come. They were told years ago the day is going to come when we're going to be put to work. And I believe the day has come. If not, it's right after the solstice. And I think the work is what you emulate and what you emit, and which is to be sovereign and have dominion as the soul you are for the space that you hold. And again, now you have the drop of water in the ocean. And
Right.
that's a math that we don't understand, and not even the powerless powers that be understand it, and not even the higher intelligences understand it. And they understand it better than we do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Mhm.
uh, but it's that's the most important contribution we can make, is to serve ourselves equally in the same degree as we serve the other, and therefore the collective.
Right. Well, it's all about like what I've really come to realize is it's stability. That's always been the piece that's been missing for me is this grounding, right? Because I've been kind of, you know, on this journey and having all these crazy experiences and learning and growing from them, but I didn't have the grounding and stability. And the irony is I got the grounding and stability in that house in the first month that I was there. And if it all of this stuff at the like it started coming about the 6 week mark because I was there for 2 months. If that had happened when I first got in for 2 weeks, I don't know if I don't know where I would have, how well I would have managed, right? But you're talking about the internet. We have created, humanity has created everything that is going on this planet. We created the internet. We brought technology, and like this has all been part of our evolution. It's been a necessary part of our evolution, but it's gotten to a point where it starts getting into the greed. It starts getting into unhealthy unhealthy. It's just not serving us anymore, right? Um, One of the things I really wanted to bring to the table, I don't know if I haven't really been following a lot of your sessions, but the food, this whole seed oil issue where they're putting seed oils, they're putting hexane in seed oils. You know about this, right?
Yeah, yeah, and but you can go back 100 and about 110, 115 years, and that shit started with a lot of other things, Federal
I
Reserve, income tax, World War
Yes,
One, but yeah, the food,
but it's
the,
gotten that it's in everything now. It's in
yeah,
everything now. You
yeah,
can't buy peanuts without having some seed oil. Like they're putting wheat in spices. Like
yeah,
it's just everything you touch has got seed oil in it, and seed oil is messing with the brain, right? I
yeah.
mean, if people pay attention, how do you feel after you've eaten something? Like if you start getting crazy thoughts in your head, what did you just finish eating? Like it's everything's infected now, everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, it is. And just like the 2 months in that house, it provided the antagonistic catalytic energy for you to sharpen your stone of the soul. And so
Totally.
you could talk about so many things. You could talk about just fluoride. I mean, if you go
Mhm.
back to the concentration camps in Nazi Germany, all right, which if you look at the characteristics of many of the things that were happening there, you know, human experimentation, hybridization,
Yes.
the fluoride thing, don't think for 1 second that these things aren't going on now. They're just going on in underground bases. They're going on in secrecy, and they're going on by the people that are telling us that they're trying to help us, right?
Of
So,
course.
but my point is, if you go back to the concentration camp, just as an example, micro to macro, there's a couple things that were really promoted there. One was the fluoride. They knew that the fluoride would dumb down the prisoners. It would
Right.
make them docile. They also fed the soldiers and the guards with meth. Okay, meth became a huge factor in those guys were pumped up with that stuff. I mean, so now look at where that's gone to today, where you have fluoride in a vast majority of the water systems. It's now starting to pull back a little bit, but it's just a drop in the bucket. And then you have Adderall, right? Which is meth, okay, and
Oh,
it's being
okay.
fed to our children. Now, I can speak from personal experience because when I was on the street, I dabbled in that stuff. You know what I mean? I was dealing weed because I was trying to make a living, and I was just I was in the shits and being woken up at the same time. So I was running around in some circles people might think are dark circles. I had my experiences with meth, and I can tell you that I've done a lot of things, like across the board, you name it. All right. I will tell you that's the one thing that I've ever ingested or experienced where I wasn't me. Something was in possession of me in
Right.
moments or something to that effect. And if you look at why the guards, for instance, in the concentration camps were being given meth, it's because it makes you numb. Okay, it makes you like you walk in the first day and somebody gets shot in the head and you go, oh, and the next day and the next day, and you're just like it's nothing, right? So imagine having that numbness in regard to yourself, and this is where they get us. It's not a they overpowered us in the sense of physically. No, it's a system where you break yourself down. It's a system
Mhm.
that promotes self annihilation and self degradation. You know what I mean? So it's again, it's the irony and the paradox of the whole damn thing.
Right.
It's me, right? But again, just like I did and so many others have, you pull yourself out step by step by step by step. Um, I want to ask you too, and I think that's a great point about the food thing, because again, it's to be aware of it. Okay. I went to the store last night and I only have a card. I don't have a card that I could get cash from. And I'm in this little Mexican town. Well, I'm
Mhm.
further north. I'm up in La Peñita.
Ah, la
And
penita.
yeah, I'm in La Pinita. So I go to the grocery store, one of the only places I can use my card, right? Because I have a very limited income from the government,
Too.
and you know what I mean. And sometimes when you go late, because I had a late show, they won't have the card thing working, so you have to pay cash. So I get all my groceries, and they said no, you can't use your card. So I'm like, damn. So I went next door to the convenience store because I could use it there, and I was hungry, and I wanted to get certain things. I wanted to get the local sourdough bread rolls, the bolillos, and I wanted to get, some other things that were healthy, right? Everything was clean. But when I went to the convenience store, I didn't have the opportunity for that. So I bought some ham, which, it is what it is, nitrites and all the other crap, right? And I bought some bread, a loaf of bread, which I never do. And again, it's just a bunch of shit. So I did, but my point is, I was conscious of it, and prior to that, and obviously lifestyle wise, I don't typically go those directions simply because I've been educated. No different than glyphosate or meth or fluoride, or whatever the case, or even deodorant. I mean, think about these things. Think about all the perfumes and all the chemicals in makeup that women put on, in the deodorant, in the soaps. I mean, this stuff goes
No,
deep,
I
right?
know. I don't put, you shouldn't put anything on your body that you wouldn't put in your mouth.
Well, and I would yes, I agree. And I just want to reiterate that just as much as you will hear out there, people, as much as you can be, you know, I'll say offended by and insulted by and just mind blown by the shit that's out there. It's out there. Okay. Just remember though, you're still here, and in a way that you are at some degree, maybe even a high degree, unconscious of, where you've been focusing on yourself and you've been rebuilding yourself and you've been finding the gold through the shadows. You are transforming yourself physically, non physically, etherically, all the bodies that make you up, because this isn't just you. So don't get too scared about it. Just keep doing what you're doing and keep on rolling down the road, because we've got the momentum. There's no
Well,
question.
none of this is designed to instill fear in anyone. It's it's the exact opposite. To me, it's educating people and going, pay attention. Like, I mean, I'll go, like, I just got all these food sensitivities all of a sudden, right? In the last little while. And so I go to buy peanuts, and I look at the jar of peanuts, and oh, they're made with canola oil. And it's like, they're peanuts. Like, just give me peanuts. You go buy peanut butter. There's sugar, there's chemicals. Why? All you need to put, peanut butter is just peanuts blended with some sea salt if you want. So I just, for me, I guess my mission is to just get people educated. And you and I, like, you've been working, many of us have been on an intense spiritual path for a long time, but a lot of people are just waking up. A lot of people are just starting to see, okay, there's a lot of cracks in the foundation. I can't trust what I'm hearing. So they're caught up in fear. They don't know that their food is severely infected. I mean, a lot, you know what I mean? For me, I want to, I'm actually starting the World Peace Vision. I was guided to start this World Peace mission, and I came with World Peace Vision. And I've got the name. I don't have a website set up yet, but it's going to go international, and I'm still putting together what it's going to look like. But um, I just really want to start by letting people know out there that I do have tools that I'm happy to share with people. Um, whether it's education about food or, like, even when I was in that mind control, whatever experience I was having, it was interesting because this woman came on, I think her name is Cicely Hudson, and she gave me this mantra of not um, consenting to any mind control and da 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 da. Like, and so I said this mantra like 3 times. Every time I got into a place that I felt like I needed to, I put it out there. And I just think those things really help people, right? We want to give them tools to get them out of fear so that they can, you know, live through the heart like we're meant to do, right?
No,
So
that's the point. Yeah, I mean, to bring it into awareness, because awareness isn't what it was 20 years ago. Awareness is actually virtually an instant transformation at the level of consciousness that we're at, even if we're not totally conscious of it. So I totally agree with you. And I've been feeling this for, you know, I went through the middle of 23 all those years, and we were doing between 65 and 70 shows a month. Okay.
Right.
And then, like a lot of us kind of got deconstructed and, everything went down to nothing for, the 23 summer of the 23 through May of 25. And for me, and then I kicked this back up and we're at about 45, 50 shows a month now. And something's different. There's something different, and I could smell it all year long, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And I feel like this show and a couple of others recently, and some that are coming up now in the next few days, is hitting the nail on the head. And that is to talk about these things not in the old way that you see on the disclosure and the conspiracy platforms, and everything has its piece of the pie, right? Everything has a piece of the puzzle. And I'm just saying this particular bead or stream that I was feeling, but I couldn't put my finger on. This is it, to be able to talk about these things in a way where we're equally talking about the soul. If we're going to talk about secret space program, we're going to talk about underground bunkers, we're going to talk about the fuckery and the child trafficking and all that crap. Let's not forget to give equal time to the I am soul and to the transformation that we've been doing on behalf of ourselves and each other in the universal. And this is real. This is real. And as long as we can hold up our half of it, and bring it out into the open, then we will continue to go the direction that we're going. And there's no question in my mind about it, and there's no way to lose because, I'm a big believer that from one incarnation to the next, we just pick up where we left off. But
Right.
this is a real opportunity that has been, for one reason or another, Notre Dame's, the Revelations, other sacred texts, whatever you want to call it, that has been pinpointed in a time space continuum for to me, for no other reason than to identify the potential of something that's beyond a quantum leap. I feel like what we're doing is not just jumping to a higher timeline. We're jumping to a higher timeline in another dimension, and then it starts again.
Well,
And
teleportation, we can teleport. You know that, right?
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. We're
Do
not
you
we're
think
not
anybody's doing it yet? Do you think anybody's doing it yet?
absolutely, absolutely. I do. I think people were doing it. I've had people on this show telling their lives, telling their life stories, and that has occurred. Okay. I
So
mean,
they've shared the story. They've shared that they've
absolutely,
actually
yeah.
done it.
I can remember talking
Interesting.
to so many people, even before I started doing videos, even individual videos. I'm talking like 2013, 2014, people that the universe put in my path and vice versa. And, I can remember meeting a sister that was from Eastern Europe, and she went to London. She went to Hyde Park physically. And she's walking through Hyde Park, and she walks by a bench, and there's an Indian yogi guy sitting on the bench, holding two big crystals, and says, "Hey, I
Wow.
need to talk to you. I remember you from Atlantis." Blah 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 blah. Hands her
Wow.
the crystals, disappears. I can tell you a story of a guy in Australia who was
Cool.
driving down the road, and somebody appeared next to him. And then he met that person in India years later. So I had my own experiences. I won't get into them, but I've had my own
Yeah.
experiences in
Yeah.
many in everything from spending a weekend with uh, a 50-ish woman uh, that was shape shifting from an angelic to a demonic for an
Wow.
entire weekend. Okay,
Wow.
it was like being with the Exorcist.
Must have been
Or
interesting.
it was crazy. It was crazy. You
Yeah.
you 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 go into the bathroom and you leave this blonde, physically fit, nice looking lady sitting on the couch, and you come back out and her skin is turned the color of bile. It's all splotchy with red dots and it's all puffy, and her voice sounds like the Exorcist.
And yet you spent the whole weekend with her. You didn't leave. Like,
Well, it was early. It was early in my awakening, and I knew that there was purpose in it because my team was in the corner of the room, and I just remember grabbing a crucifix off the wall and holding it up and looking at him and saying, "Hey, man,
Help me
You
out
got to
here.
have to give me, you didn't give me an owner's manual. Tell me what the hell to do. And I'm putting the crucifix in front of her face, talking all this noise, like I am, a
It's just
descendant of
crazy.
Jesus and
Oh
whatever
my
the
God.
downloads were. But the point is, and I've had other experiences. I've had some in Sedona. I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, are people doing it? Look, you can go online. You can find people that are moving objects on a table with
Yes.
their hands.
Yes.
You can see people that are bringing
Mhm.
weather in, wind, rain. Yeah, this is the real shit. There's no
You
question
know,
about it.
it's interesting because I think of some of the things I've gone through, and I have to tell you, it's surreal sometimes for me to really think about some of the experiences I've been through and that they're actually really real. That they
Mm.
really, and it's interesting too because, excuse me, this experience I just came out of was in a house in the country in Alberta, which is where I'm from, in Canada, and it had a little glider rocker, and I love to rock. And there was a glider rocker in this room, and my shamanic journey, like I've been doing the spiritual work for like 9+ years, but the shamanic journey really started with a mushroom trip. And it happened. It wasn't in the country, but it was in a small little town in Alberta. I had a little rocking chair in my room, and my girlfriend wanted to do a mushroom trip. And she is like a grandma. She doesn't drink or smoke weed. Like she has a glass of wine here and there, doesn't smoke weed, nothing. Her brother somehow got the idea in her mind to do this mushroom trip. And she wanted me to do it with her. And I said, great. I just want to microdose. Okay. I did mushrooms when I was a teenager. I don't want to hallucinate. Like I'm not in that world anymore. So I left it with them. Now he stayed straight. Her and I did them, but we got copious amounts. Like obviously my soul agreed to do it. What do you do for a mushroom trip? A little. This was like a bowl full of
You probably
mushrooms.
do like a 3.5 grams, 3, 4 grams.
It was a small bowl full,
Yeah,
and I ate it all, right?
yeah,
And then she started getting sick. And she
really.
said, Lori, go, yeah, she said, go to your room. I'm not well, just go have, So I went into my room and I was sitting in the rocking chair and I thought, you know what? I agreed to do this with my sister. I'm not going to abandon her. She's sick. So I go into her room and she's a mess. She is a mess. So I'm just like, okay, look into my eyes. I'm here with you. Da-da. It turned into almost like a past life experience. And the brother was Mr. Shadow. Like he thought he was going to get us both wrecked and put us in absolute fear. Well, she got terrorized. Me, no effect. And it was like, I remember thinking to myself, this dark shadow work started in this little small hick town in Alberta in a glider rock, or no, not a glider rock, yeah, a glider rocker, and it's ending in a little small hick town in a glider rocker because it was the same idea. It was mind control. I was supposed to be so terrorized by that mushroom trip. And the thing is that I have a pretty big mission here. Not that I'm, trying to blow my own horn, but I have a really big mission here. And it's like every time I try to work with people on this mission, it's like somebody tries to take me out or take it out. I don't know. But it was just a different experience. So it was still the mind control thing, getting me into a place of fear through mushrooms, right? Whereas these guys are using technology, right? So anyway, it's been a ride. I got to tell you, some of the things I've been through down here, I haven't even told people because they just would not believe me. The average person would not believe me. And I don't know what your world is looking like, but I'm not surrounded by a lot of spiritual people in my life, right?
Uh,
Like,
yeah.
I mean,
Well, you mean
tell
in
me.
in the physical?
Yeah, like, I mean, in
I
your little
yeah yeah
Lipinita.
the I think through the internet.
Yes.
And again,
Well,
everything has a yin and yang, right? And so, like for instance, the whole Facebook thing, and you hear a lot of people trashing Facebook, and rightfully so. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But the
good, bad,
point
and
is,
everything.
when that thing exploded, which I think was around 2012. I got on it in 2011, and you start to see all these starseed groups, light worker groups, empath groups. People start communicating through instant messages. There was energy was being conveyed, shared, and experienced in a way it never had before, and
Right.
so it kind of brought us back online. Um, and so yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I got lost, got off on that tangent, but I think it was related to what you were talking about.
Oh, just about being around spiritual community.
Oh
I
yeah,
think that
oh yeah. That's
honestly,
what
it's
I was saying.
good
Yeah,
form.
what I was
Yeah,
saying is yes, there is a strong spiritual connectivity in the grid that we have recovered. I would use that term because I think I think whatever distortion that we've been experienced this life or previous one has been an overlay on the original grid. You know, you can't fuck with Mother Nature. So once
that's
she's, you
right.
know what I mean. So, but I think there's a lot of connection through that means, which is now turning into that telepathic, above telepathic capabilities kind of thing. But I think as far as on a localized level, what I have noticed this year for the first time is not everybody, but there's been more people coming on here that are talking about doing the work at a local level, and it's being successful. Now, in the previous years, I would hear a lot of people say, we're going to go make this commune and we're going to have this community living. And every story that I heard, none of them worked out because I don't think the time was right. So
Right.
I do think the point of at least my response to your question is that I do think it's happening. Now, for me personally, I'm living in a little Mexican town by myself for the last 6 months, and I know a few people here and there. I have sometimes interesting spiritual conversations with some of the natives here. Not very often, but the entire place is spiritual. Like the entire town, the feel, the
Nice.
families, the people. There's no commercialism. I mean, it's just the horses, you know, the dogs running around. I mean, the ocean. It is a spiritual thing. It's weird, you know. I walk down the street and my soul will say, what are you worried about? What do you think about that for? What do you think about that for? Look where you're at, you know." And then it'll say, "It's you." And I feel like that's what we're coming into when we start to further up the road, you know, as we get further and further up the road, we start to recognize you might say our body, not just this body, but actually the sphere that is there that we're walking around. And we start to understand that there is truly a connection between within as without. You know, and the last thing I would say too, some people talk about what's happening now, and I totally agree that it's a life review in form. Now, you listen to people that have near death experiences, and there's a lot of platforms where you can listen to these stories. And when you get past the individual story and all that stuff and realize it's all the same pattern. And what is
Right.
that pattern? That one of the aspects of that pattern is that they're given a life review. And now in that life review, the way it works is they're able to feel everything that person on the other end received from that thought, word, or action. And it doesn't matter what your intention was. You're actually understanding how it made them feel, which is also giving you the ability to look at where they came from. So if you're looking at someone and you say, "You sorry bastard, you did this to my daughter," or something like that, in that life review, you're able to see why and where they came from. And so, what
Right.
I always get to, and I think this is what we're getting to because we're having a life review in form, it's becoming more and more conscious. People are starting to deal with their own bullshit to a greater and greater degree because many people have been doing this for quite some time and it's a growing contagion, right? But I think what happens is we get to a point and we go, you know what? We've all been subjected to the same thing. Every
That's
one of
right.
us. So we have two things in common. I am soul, and we've all been subjected to the same thing. And therefore, we now neutralize and eradicate the division and the separation between us, which is just a perception that's been
Right.
presented to us through a distortive influence, and we might call the archons or whatever you want to call them. You know what I mean?
Right. Whatever label. I mean, everything's energy at the end of the day, right? It's
Mm.
just energy. That's what I mean. Like you get these scary shadow. It's just energy. That's all
Mm.
it is. And anytime I've ever, even when I was in that situation on that mushroom trip, when I had no idea what was happening to me, because I went into a whole world where all this scary stuff was happening and dark entities and whatever that I didn't know anything about or how to manage, um, I just sent it love. I
Mm.
always just sent it love. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
listen to sound healing if I can. And if I can't, I just send love, and it just dissipates. It's incredible. Love heals all, man.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. Everything's energy in the sense that, think about the different energies that are presented to you every day, or even if you look back a few years or whatever, there's certain energies we don't want nothing to do with. Like,
Right?
get the fuck away from me. Or that's not me. A big one for me, and one of my, I have to say, and again, I'm not patting myself on the back like you were saying earlier. You're not patting yourself on the back. It is what it
Yep.
is, and
Yep.
this is part of our expansion and our transformation is to own who we are without being
Right.
cocky and arrogant.
Right.
But when I realized that I cannot be an empath unless I'm a narcissist, and I cannot be a narcissist unless I'm an empath, and a lot of people might struggle with that. But the fact is the fact. Every one of us carries both. And I'll give you an example. When somebody makes a statement, me, you, anybody else, and they make a statement in judgment, you're immediately a narcissist. Now, you could be a light worker that's all fluffy and, got 16 pairs of wings and you're flying above the fray, and you look down at these people and say they're not awake. Well, from the perspective that I'm talking about, the place that we share where we're still trying to figure this stuff out, that's a superioristic statement. That's a narcissistic statement. I'm not saying it's a full blown, I'm just saying
Yeah.
we have to recognize that everything that's outside of us and is no different than what's inside of us. And
Right.
how can you divorce yourself from any aspect of the universal? And if you were made in the image and you are a copy, you know what I mean, a fractal, all right, that's having a unique and equal experience. To maximize that experience is to not necessarily open your arms to everything, although that's the process I use, but to recognize everything as part of creation, as part of the
Yes.
experience, as part of yourself.
Yes.
And that's not an easy thing to do when you've got this distortion running out there and all this propaganda and all the BS and all the conditioning. This mind control thing is really the big subject here, right?
Yeah.
What I'm noticing recently is how subtle these things are. You hear a lot of people
It
this year,
is.
they talk about, I got into this space of like, why did I say that? Why do I do that? Well, just go back to our upbringing. This was mind control. Mind control was standardized schooling. So we were
Yeah.
conditioned to follow orders and basically suppress our creativity. Okay. So what does that turn into? That turns into 2001, 9/11, and here's the story, or JFK. Here's the story. Warren Commission. Here's the 9/11. Here's the 9/11 Commission story. Doesn't even talk about Building 7. How can we even be fucking talking about JFK and 9/11 and COVID and this fucking bullshit? And even having a conversation when the proof is in the pudding and the truth is written on the fucking wall. So rather than get all uptight and raising hell, yeah, sometimes the truth pisses you off and then you get your balance and then we start to do what we fucking came here to do, you know?
That's right.
And
Well,
that's
you
to
got to get
turn this,
angry.
that's the thing to turn it, yeah, because anger can be a good emotion. Anger can be
Well,
a very good emotion. And it's driven me a lot over the years when I've come out and expressed myself on the show or, through music or a spirit walk. But my point is that it's 100% on us. I don't give a damn who the president is, who the pope is. I don't care. I don't give
that's
a
right.
shit about the underground bases. I don't care about the secret space program, reptilians, Pleiadians. There's good and bad in everything if you want to look at it that way. This is incumbent upon us. This is an opportunity that we have been given, but that we have earned. And it's
Yes.
game time now. It's game time,
Absolutely.
you know.
It's game
And and
time, brother.
you know, and you're right.
And we're ready.
It all starts with the thoughts. And what you
We're
said,
all the time.
you've spent 9 years mastering your thoughts. That's a profound, simple, unique, infinite wisdom.
It's been a lot of
And
work,
you're doing it in the flesh. Don't forget that.
right? I know. Aren't we amazing?
Well, that's
It's like
what the universal family's looking at us and going, how in the hell have they made it this far and how far will they go?
we're
Because they're
like
doing,
superhumans. We're superhumans. We
yeah.
know that.
Well, we're superstars, right?
Something. We're
super
super.
super soul
We're not really
stars.
humans. Yeah, but it's doable. I mean, the thing is that I've done. It's taken me all these years, and I've done it like learning, not really knowing, trying to figure it out, and doing it by research and finding my way, like not having any guidance really. And now I can give people the shortcuts, right? I can
Right.
help people. They don't have to go through everything. I mean, isn't that the whole point of what we do? A big part of it, because the energy that we're walking around in is shifting the planet. It's all going back to the collective, all the work that we do on ourselves. But I can give people all the shortcuts now and go, just do this, do this, do this. And I mean, it's no different than working a muscle. Your mind is a muscle. You know what? You go to the
Yeah.
gym, you can't just go once or twice. You got to keep working it, working it, working it. And eventually you don't have to work it so hard anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, going back to what you and the sisters were given years and years ago, that one day will be put to work, right? I feel like this is the work. Like if you think
Yeah.
about the experience that you had in that little remote house with those three male figures,
Yeah.
you know, we know the story from your perspective, but think about the catalytic influence that you had on those three people. It's all a
You
dance,
think?
you know.
Well,
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. So,
yeah.
and I
And
had. Go
uh,
ahead.
well, it's interesting because he kind of came into my field, like I think it might have been yesterday, kind of trying to manipulate me a little bit. And I was just like, you know what, dude? You got to take, you got to take, like, you got to take these blows because you have put, like, I'm not going to get into there's a lot of dark other stuff attached to this. I'm not even going to express it, but you got to take your blows, man. Like when there was a lifetime when I was you know what I mean? And I had to overcome that stuff to get myself where I am now. So you're going to have to take your blows and just do your time because you've hurt a lot of people doing what you're doing. And I've just completely cut the cord. I sent him love. I said, good luck. You know what? We're all working through some evolution. We're at some level of evolution in our soul. And some of us are living in expressing more shadow than others. That's really all it is.
Yeah,
So,
and it's perspective too. And here's the crazy thing that that 1%, they think they're doing the right thing. I
well,
mean,
it's working for them, isn't it? It's working for them, isn't
they
it?
have as well. Is it? Is it? Or
Well,
are
they've been
they?
controlling the planet for a long time. I mean,
Well,
they
are
got their
they?
money.
Yeah, or are they figuratively selling their soul? Because
Well,
you don't have to follow the mythos of selling your soul to the devil and making it so sensationalistic, and salacious. You can sell your soul to the proverbial metaphorical devil anytime by depleting yourself, by not choosing yourself, by giving away your power. Look,
it's true.
we've all been down this road before. We spent we how much of our shadow work was the conversion of a traumatic experience from initially blaming it on something else outside of us, a victimizer, an
Right,
oppressor, and then coming full circle and saying, oh, I designed this, and here's why. So I could learn to be in my power, so I could
right.
learn to recognize I was giving my power away, and it wasn't that force outside of me. Now, you go through this, and there's been enough conditioning collectively, and the template's been set, and we brought us to this time, and you have something like COVID, and you've got 65, 68% of the world just takes the jab, either through coercion or mostly because that's just the way they've been trained. I'll go back to my stepfather, the one that was in the CIA, right? I remember one time I was having a conversation with him because he was among other things, he was primarily in Vietnam. He was a big figure in Vietnam. He had to finally leave because they almost killed him a couple of times, and he went to some other countries, and they were communist countries. And I was talking to him about it, and again, he's in this organization. I knew him. He was a wonderful man. Okay, but as time goes on, I realize that there had to be some memory swipe there. There had to be something going on there. In fact, when he retired, they let him retire at 48, which is very unheard of. It's like the mafia. You can't leave.
Right.
But
Right.
because of the level of service he gave him, I'm thinking is why they let him do it. He had to go to the headquarters for 3 days, an entire weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to get debriefed. All right.
Wow.
And they handed him a check and he left. But my point is what he said about the communist countries. He said, Yeah, well, there's one difference. He said, when you go into a communist country and you go to a store or you go here, you go there, everybody's in order. So what does that tell you? You know what I mean? Look
Control.
at look at the extremity of it, North Korea. I mean, if you dig into and research a little bit about North Korea, it's fucking mind blowing the level of conditioning that that entire country has. It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
It's draconian, you know? It's almost unbelievable in the contemporary world. But, when everything outside of us, the media, here's another one for me. How can anyone in the United States of America, and I don't believe in countries, it's just a bunch of bullshit because there's one thing behind them all, okay? But how could you even involve yourself in terms of forming an opinion in the political arena between these two parties that are really one and they're both owned by the same energy complex, which may have many names depending on what layer of the identification you want to, put your hands on. So, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that's happening with people. This is the kind of stuff that's happening with people. But at the same time, you have this incredible uh, turn of events in Bulgaria, where they're saying, "You've taken us into the EU. You're trying to implement all this digital ID, this and that. Uh, you want to go further. We're saying we don't want to do it. We want to rescind some of the things you've done, and we don't want to be in that
Right.
fucking EU." And then you have another one where you've got these two shooters, and let's not forget about the level of mind control technology, MK Ultra.
Right.
Three shooters get turned on in the same day. Come on.
Right.
And did that guy kill Charlie Kirk with a 30-06? Hell no. Right?
I know.
What you see, and why did they remove what do you call it? The holographic projector. They removed it immediately after he went down. Okay, no one's asked anything about it, and then they go and cover everything up with concrete the next day. Come on now, all right. But through all this kind of bullshit, it's the individual that drives everything. It's contagious for all of us. And you see this man, a Muslim, a street vendor in that shooting in Australia, who risked his life, gets shot twice to take down a shooter. That everybody here on this earth, except for maybe 1%, wants the same thing. They don't want to be fighting people. They want to live in
Peace.
peace. They want to eat clean
Peace.
food. They want to drink
Peace.
clean
I
water.
know.
And that's one thing I will say, about the human species or the human experience, is that if you look through history, I'm a huge history buff all my life, is the resilience of the human being. They
Yeah.
never, ever, ever, ever give up.
I
And that's a
know. It's
powerful,
incredible.
powerful thing because it's a deep emotion, you know?
Yeah. Actually, I received the download a number of years ago that humanity has already chosen world peace, and we are coming into world peace. And that was where this whole world peace vision is coming up. I need somebody to put a website together for me because I want to go international with it, and I'm coming up with ideas about how we can. Like, to me, it's like we start with the people. Like, no one should go hungry. Everyone should have a roof over their head. How can we make that happen? Like, there's just so much to it, right? But um, yeah, I just want to help as many people as I can, because we're all walking each other home, right? Well, I don't know where that came from, but yeah,
Ram
we're all
Dass.
just walking we're all just walking each
Ram
other
Dass.
home. But I
Ram Dass.
mean,
He
every
also,
people,
yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead.
most people want peace. I mean, okay, there's a few out there that are, but a lot of people, like I think about this situation that I just had, is the guy who tried to mind control me. Is he not mind controlled? Is he not a
Of
victim of,
course,
do you know what I mean?
of
So it's like,
course. Well,
so,
that's the whole point
right?
because look, you're either going to operate, and we see this in daily life with people that we're connected to. You're going to operate, and I've come to for myself. I'm not saying this is the gospel. I'm just saying I've come to understand the thin line between insecurity and
Yeah,
intuition. Now,
right.
insecurity isn't probably a word that can really contains and explains what I'm saying, but with insecurity comes doubt, suspicion,
Uh,
paranoia,
yeah,
the need to put up a physical field of protection, which is
yeah,
really just acknowledging that there's something that has power over you. So,
right.
so I've spent this year, part of this year, a big part of this year has been me When the information comes in, it's intuitive, spontaneous, creative, imaginative. Instead of running away with it with a story, oh, well, then this means this, and this means this, and this means that. That's my insecurity. See, that's where I have to know what it is and where is it going. This
Right.
space that we're in is a weird space. It's a space that reminds me of the intense lucid dreams that I have and have had for many years, which is a space of presence. You're not thinking, when you're in a lucid dream, you're not thinking about yesterday.
Right.
You're dealing with all the energy that's in your field,
You're in the
right?
performance.
Yeah, yeah, you're dealing with the energy that's speaking to you, just like life is speaking to you, and that's becoming more obvious too. In fact, I really feel that as time goes on, it will become more of a lucid dream state, and there'll be more of a handoff, a cohesive handoff between what we call dream state and awake state. You know, it would make sense because in our path and in the functions that we have in the internal work that we've done, we've constantly integrated polarities. So why would that be any different with the physical and the non-physical or the dream state and the awake state? You know,
Well, some
and
people say the real world is when we're sleeping
I think that's true.
because that's when you're in your subconscious mind, right? You're
Yeah.
like, we're conscious right now. So we're in just a simulation. We're just in some kind of crazy,
Well,
where
this
this is the
this
Truman Show. It's the Truman Show,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly. It's like and well, the indigenous say that this is the dream state. This is dream world, and that wouldn't surprise me because I have a really strong feeling that that our God self, our oversoul selves, I should say, are
Yeah.
all up there around a big round table, having a cocktail and eating some good hors d'oeuvres or something, and looking down at us and having a good laugh because they know we're going to have a laugh. And that's when like when you look at a child that's taking something too seriously and they're just in hysterics and realizing that the gold is going to be shown to them. I think it's important to find the humor. And I just want to say something else too about what you're talking about with your vision and your dream. Hold on to it.
Yeah.
Don't let that go. And that
No.
goes for everybody. And I'm on the same path. I've totally deconstructed Soulogy and started over and gave up my livelihood, gave up everything because that's what the soul said. And what I'm understanding is we rebuild these things with the new constructs, and it's important not to think of how it's going to happen based on the old experience and the old constructs. This is
Right.
magical, it's miraculous energy, it's Trinity energy, it's divine, it's infinite in its possibilities. It's never been done before. It's going to require a new code, co-creation, and collaboration, and that's what we're doing. And I
Mm.
think these conversations lend to that much more than number of views, number of likes, number of people in your whatever it
Totally.
is. This is
Yeah.
this everything's upside down. So the power is in the moment by moment experience that we have, the new choices that we're making, and the new code that we're creating, and it's serving in a quantum entanglement, theoretical, well, realistic, scientific definition or approach. It's connected to everything, every single thing. And
It's
so
beautiful.
we are that. And it's, hey, we've tried everything else. We might as well go all the way with this one.
Right. I
Yeah.
know. I remember when I first started watching you, you were in that basement.
Oh
You
my
you were
God.
staying with a friend. That's when I
That was
first discovered you.
that was
You
that
were
was
in
in
this basement by
yeah,
yourself and you
yeah.
just some friend was putting you up and you, right? What was the story?
Yeah, that was actually I was that was the first time I could afford to pay where I was staying. And I think I want to say it was maybe 1,000 a month. And we're probably doing maybe 1,500, maybe 18, I don't know. But it was a hot summer. It was 2018. And going back to this whole dark and light thing, that's interesting that you bring this up. So my friend had this 1 acre property, or let's just say somebody that was watching the show had this 1 acre property in Georgia, kind of a rural subdivision. And it was incredible, by the way. I mean, it was a prolific, galactic, angelic, and you'll see in a minute more so other things kind of experience. But the bottom line is she had this huge basement. It was huge. It must have been like 1,500 square feet, right? And it was just full of boxes and junk and this and that. It had two or three rooms in it. And it had this room where I was doing the show, and it had no sheetrock on the ceiling, and like the ceiling was falling through. It stunk like hell. There were dead rats, there were flies,
God,
and
really?
yes. And so I was there trying to establish enough to where I could get Morgan to come over, right? And so I didn't really have a choice, Like we got invited, I got invited over there, so I started to set the thing up. But now I have to clean this basement. And it hadn't been touched in years. And I mean, I went to one room and I saw all the sexual debauchery and violation in that room. Okay. I mean, and it was a lot of dark energy. And I'm dealing with the rats and the flies, and I was told you can't kill any of them. So I had to start talking to them. Actually talk to them. I'm talking about, there was at least seven or eight, nine. I'm talking rats too. I'm not talking mice. I'm talking big
Yeah.
ass rats. But anyway, the reason I'm bringing that up is because it was one of the instances in my life where I was applied to address dark and light in a given situation in my sphere of experience. And I remember several times, and I was connected, and I mean, I'm like, I'm not exactly comfortable the whole time. You can smell this crap. You see a bunch of flies over here but toward the end, as I went through the whole thing, kind of reorganized everything, clean, I filled up this long driveway with just from start to finish, 6 feet high with junk, right? But there was still a lot of stuff in there. But I got to this last little corner, and when I removed the box in that corner, there was a there was well, a demonic. So most people would say demonic type of energy that was in the corner, the last corner exposed, and was kind of shrinking a little bit, right? It wasn't imposing, but the energy
Right.
itself was very dark, and it was very traumatized. You could tell. I mean, it was fucked up. And I was just told, spread your arms out, open your heart. If you believe who you are, and what you came to do, just open your heart as you've done before. I'd never done it to something this close to me, other than that what I told you about earlier, where the lady was shapeshifting, and that's what happened. It became neutralized, it equalized, and from that point on, things started to pick up. Let's just say Morgan came over, and that's actually when we started to, when she walked in the door. I think I'd done about 400. Um, in fact, I know I did because I remember the 400 show was done there, and um, and we started doing like 90 a month. Like it was just like five a day, six a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week.
Crazy.
So, but there was something to be said for the cleansing and
Right.
you know what I mean? And I guess what I've learned through that experience and my other experiences with the, you might say, the dark and light parts of the spectrum, has been that nothing gets, well, you can't destroy energy,
Right.
right? So
You
now
alchemize it,
I could have
ideally.
I could have run that spirit out, and I would have saw him again. And a few years earlier, I have a daughter who's very sensitive. And in the early days of Soulogy, when I was in Houston, and she was having visitations, and they weren't pretty. And I knew it was ancestral. I'm not talking about like waking up with fingerprints, bruises on herself, and things like that. Well, I figured out, I identified this entity, and I ran it the fuck out. I'm like, hey, I am the light man. Get out of here, and it did, but it came back, and
Yeah.
so it taught me that. It taught me, well, you can't do it this way, and
Well, I
eventually,
don't know about that because I am sorry to cut you off, but my understanding is that if it comes back, that you still have a leak in your auric field. Like there's something you still haven't healed within yourself.
yeah, well, that
Yeah.
well, I mean,
Is that what you're saying?
well, yes, because
Yeah.
the ultimate reality, it's the same thing. It's
Right.
coming back. It's coming back. It could be explained this way or that way, but regardless, it's not a power over. Now that's very
Right.
true. That's very true. Not, and see, because my second wife, she transitioned, right, and she was very lit, okay, and she came back, and she was also very afflicted.
Right.
In the human definition or perspective in diagnosis, she was schizophrenic and chronic depression and
Right.
all that stuff. But anyway, she came back to see me a few times after she transitioned. And one time she came back and explained to me how that worked and that these traumas create holes in the aura and that
Right.
allows those energies to come in.
Right.
But going back to what you said and how I learned from that experience with my daughter was it came back, right? And at that point I was so lit. I mean, I could command them to leave, right? Whatever.
Yes.
But then I realized that wouldn't happen. So a friend of mine, it was actually the lady that was in Hyde Park that met that Swami or whatever, I asked her, can you help me? So we did a three-way, right? She was on, like she was there. I was on the couch there. And actually the wife, the deceased mother was there. And so what happened was we did, I guess you would say like psychic or spiritual surgery or whatever you want
Surgery.
to call it.
Yep.
And this huge black goo came out of her, which was the physical residue of this particular entity,
Oh,
and
wow.
it went up into the light,
Wow.
which is what it wanted
Yes.
ultimately.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah. So so
Right.
that
So
taught
she was,
me, yeah, that taught me to understand, at least that's for me. Now it could be different for somebody else because everybody's different. You know what I mean? But that for me was a big learning lesson, and that's when I started to realize, oh, I can't divorce myself from anything. And I had some help doing it because I live next door to a huge cemetery, and I used to walk it every night. And so every night I was being confronted
you were,
with angels.
you were picking up energies and attachments, right?
Well, I was there serving a purpose
Hmm.
to bring I don't know, to bring awareness. I don't know how to explain it. I was being initiated, but at the same time, I was very I could see all the spirits. I used to do. That's where the first studio was, and I had a big window, like a big giant window, and also had a door, a front door that I was told to leave open, not to shut it or lock it. And
Nice.
I had a glass security door. Drove my daughter's crazy. So for 6 or 8 months, I never closed that door. But what would happen is when I would start doing, at that point I was doing like, turn music on, and I would do like this Soulogy sermon on Sunday, and I just start talking. I could see them gather. They would gather at the window, and so it was some type of grid work, I guess I would say. But that all that happened at that time, and it freaked my daughters out at times. Like I remember one time we heard all this noise, and they, I was, starting soldiering, like, Dad, what the hell's going on? Like they actually started going, there is something happening here. I'm like, yeah, there's something going on. And we heard all this crazy stuff happening. I opened the door, and there was a dead squirrel, spread eagle, laying there, like, dead. And I don't know how the hell that could happen. There's just, what I mean. So there was a lot of stuff going on. But I think this is, again, one person's story is everybody's story. It just looks different on the surface. We're all having these experiences, and they're really the same thing. They're really driving us back into ourselves. And also, I think when that happens, as we kind of cross thresholds within ourselves, there's a simultaneous spiritual reaction where it happens with that person in front of you as well, right? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of
Everything's an
like,
opportunity. Everything's a gift. Everything, and the more challenging the experience, the greater the gift. And it's really just about managing energy. Everything is energy. Fear is energy. All is mind, right? So you just get the fear coming out. You just transmute it. You just turn it into love, right?
yeah,
Alchemize it.
yeah, and yes, I would agree. And I think for me, what works well, and I think some people would be able to relate to this in terms of emotions, is to sit. I sit with it. I feel it. You know,
Yeah, like don't, and
I,
sometimes like I'll wake up in the morning, well, not anymore. I guess I'm actually certified fearless now. But
I
it's like I would wake up in the morning with fear in my belly and I would just let it be there. Just
yeah,
experience, let it be there. Just let it pass through your system. It's when you get
yeah.
stuck there that you want to start using your tools. But sometimes it's coming out of your cells, right? It just needs to come out of the system somehow, right?
I think a lot of that has been happening at the as this year's gone on, particularly since September for people. That old saying where the loop came back again. I thought that was gone, and it came back again, and then at some level, it kind of comes back for the last time. You know what I mean? And that to me, it kind of what you just said about the pores and the cells and all that. That kind of describes for me certainly December and probably the last half of November. I've literally purged out of every pore of my body. It's been
It's trauma.
crazy. Yeah,
It's
and I
trauma stored in your cells,
yeah
right?
yeah. And I think the other thing that's come into the awareness of not just myself but others is, and we've talked about it over the years, but this is like the trauma that's releasing from my body or whatever
Yeah,
isn't I would say this much of it's from this lifetime, right? Most of it's
right.
ancestral. It's also karmically connected, connected to other parts of my monad or my
And
playmates or my soul family.
and
So
it's
it's
collective. It's for the
yeah,
collective, right? Collective
yes,
energy that you're
yeah,
that you're transmuting on behalf of humanity, right? That's what
that's
we're
right.
doing.
That's true.
Nice work.
That's true. Well, that's what we're all doing. I mean, as the individual goes, so goes the collective, and we can't really understand that relationship, But one thing we can do is say, hey, this is our GPS. This is our navigational system. I am the soul in a human form, and like you were saying about not getting afraid, not being afraid when you're faced with something. Uh, uh, be it a physical or non-physical entity. I mean, I pretty much go through this exercise almost every night, which is putting myself in that space of, I don't know anything, I'm nothing, yet I'm everything, uh, and kind of picture certain things being presented in front of me. Some of them are very full of light, some of them look like dark, and where do I stand there? Can I hold my ground? One of the biggest uh, initiations I had was walking that cemetery, right? And there was a week, it was during the first uh, Lionsgate that I was ever aware of was a Lionsgate. It was 2016. And for about a week, the Mother Mary consciousness was coming in and working with me. And she had me like on a tight, like regimen, like really clean, eating certain way, meditating, da, da, da. And and we finally got to the end of it. And when we got to the end of it, I walked across the cemetery to this convenience store because I figured I'd earned it. So I bought a tall beer. I'll never forget this. And I was kind of like, yeah, man, and
It,
uh and so I'm walking across the cemetery and I drink about half this beer, which is nothing, right? It was a tall beer, but it was nothing, like maybe the equivalent of a beer. And it started to rain and I started to feel sick, like I was going to die. And I lay on the ground face first, on my stomach. Can't I have no equilibrium, I feel like I'm going to die. And she pops in and she says, "Are you sure about this? Are you being cocky? Are you being arrogant? Are you full of yourself?" I said, "No, I'm just happy, and da, 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 da. She said, "Are you sure?" And took me through this whole shamanic kind of line of questioning. And then at the end, she said, "Okay, uh, if it comes down to it, who are you going to trust, me or you?" And I said, "Me." And she said, "Right answer." And,
good.
and then the whole thing left, and I got up and finished my beer and walked home. I thought, what the hell was that? But I think that's really it. It really is. And under any and all circumstances that, I picture sometimes, like a 20-foot, reptilian come into my presence and I'll look at him and say, well, you can eat me. I mean, physically, I'm no match, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but I am a soul. I am a soul.
Mhm.
And if you want to go that route, I'll come back and whip your ass, and we'll just start this shit all over again. But we're past this now, and I think that many this is a universal correction, a universal alignment, and everything in the body collective goes to its neighborhood. That's kind of like that. That's the way I look at it. Like we come back to that original
Yes,
blueprint before
yes.
people started to get out of their own lane, interference, and all that BS. You know what I mean? Control, power over.
Well, one of the things I understand about entities or dark attachments is that they can only come in to our field if we, on some level, are consenting
Yeah.
to participate in that. So when you send them away and you say, you know, cast them off or whatever, they have to leave.
Yeah.
But it's like one of the things my shaman told me is like if you're drinking alcohol, right? Like you're opening yourself up to shadow. They're spirits, right? So they can
Mm.
come in that way. Like if you're, if you find your like if you're not maybe energetically, I don't like to say protected, but solid. Because what would happen is I would get these attachments and he would get rid of them and then I would get another one. Then he'd get rid of it and I'd get another one. It's just like it was because I was not etherically healthy or protected. My auric field wasn't sealed, right? So I would go out and maybe have some drinks or go hang out with people in a certain place. He was always like, no drugs. I don't know. Marijuana to me is a healing plant. I don't. I
All
think
right.
you can abuse anything, right? But
Of course.
uh, it takes me closer to God. I
Sex. I mean, uh, everybody's got their own genetic makeup. You know
right,
what I mean? So, from a
yeah,
galactic standpoint, from a human standpoint, and this is part of staying in your own lane thing. Like I keep
right,
telling people all year long, I don't even know how people can get in another lane because being taught is a full time job as the days go
right,
on. I don't
right,
have
yeah.
time to be interfering with anyone. But you're making a good point, and I think it's important to restate it. One, anything you come across of that nature, at least has been my experience, and I think there's quite a bit of people that would agree with it. If this is my space, you need to leave. Number
And they
one,
have to
and
by universal law. They have
yeah,
to go. They
and
can't stay. But
number two is who are you? Okay, and
mhm,
say I spend time with people. I was obviously talking to a lot of people over the years. We've all heard voices. We all have these things that come in.
yes,
I've always questioned mine.
yes,
Always. I questioned it when it was Jesus and Archangel Michael, Mother Mary, who's been with me since I was about 2 years old. Okay. I always question them because there is a shamanic approach to the universal paradoxical teaching method. I remember when I first woke up, I had six prophets or ascendeds sit with me for about 2 weeks apiece, right? And and then I went on a few adventures or whatever, and then one day the shit hit the fan, and I had like this just incredible, in a wake state, dimensional experience. And there was crows, and there was animals, and there was just this crazy vortex energy and stuff. And at the very end of the vision or the experience, because my eyes were wide open, those six ascendants popped up in my head. Well, popped in my third eye, and they all had ugly faces. They all and it scared the hell out of me because I'd only been awoke for maybe going on a year. And you know how when you first reawake, sometimes it can be very intense for until you start to get the message. And I thought, well, shit, I am crazy. Like, oh my God, I've just been duped by the devil. But
right,
I realized, like within 24 hours, as it all started to come in, that they were just keeping me on my toes. They were just saying, hey, don't over rely on us. Don't over identify on us. We're a part of you. We're not over you.
right.
We're a part of you. And so yeah, then I got back on track. But yeah, I mean it comes down to us, choosing ourselves, self-reliant, self-sourcing, which is what you were talking about with the teleportation and so on. Yeah,
And
it's
even
not.
world peace. World peace starts within each of us,
Of course it does.
right?
Absolutely.
Every
That's
person who chooses peace within themselves, like that's it. Like that's it's not
that's
that
true.
complicated.
and
but
how
people have
and
to
how
choose it.
and how do we know that there's or not know that there's not 8 billion Earths, and the one that you're walking and the one that I'm walking are that individual fractal experience, and within that sphere, yours or mine, we can have and create whatever we want to. And only the belief that we can't is what stands between us, right?
Right.
You
It's
know what I
right.
mean?
If we can teleport, if we can fly, we can go, do all these things. Like we're so programmed. There's so
Yeah,
much density we're walking around in that,
yeah,
it's getting to the truth of who you are. Because, you were talking about judgment earlier. If I judge another person, that's because I judge myself,
yeah.
right? So that means go within, do your internal work to heal the judgment, advance yourself, and then you're not going to have that judgment against anybody else. You know what I mean? It's an inside job, man. The whole thing is inside.
That's right. And that's what I was saying. There's a simultaneous spiritual reaction. As you raise the bar in terms of lessening self-judgment, therefore raising self-love, there's a mutual unilateral reaction. I immediately look at you with the same level of less judgment and the same level of expanding love, and it just that's just the way it is. It's kind of like the chicken and the egg. If I walk out to the town here, like I was telling you earlier, and my soul pops in and says, "Look around. This is you." Well, is it me or is it what I'm looking at? And is it? And here we go. It's $1 million question. But it's one and the same. And that's the whole idea of those life reviews and those near-death experiences, and what I was talking about, what some people have talked about with what we're doing now, because that seems to be accurate. It seems that we're becoming more sensitive to others, to where they're coming from, to putting ourselves in their shoes. And it's because we're having the same relationship with ourselves, because we're coming into a great awareness of what we really are, who we are, and all that stuff. And again, it has a uniform spiritual reaction, simultaneous. So, but it's
Compassion.
still
It's
it's still
compassion,
based
right?
on us. Yeah, absolutely, it's compassion. Yeah, it's compassion. So, if you follow the narrative of Q or white hats in the government, I'm not saying there is or there isn't. Okay, what
Yeah, I
I'm
don't know what
saying
that's all
is,
about.
well, what I'm saying, well, they would talk about, Obama's already dead. He was hanged in Guantanamo, or Biden, or
Does it
this
matter?
bad guy.
Does any of
No,
it matter?
no.
You know what I mean?
But this is my point. My point is, we're we're in a field of consciousness is expanding to a point that if we actually got to that point of a narrative, and the troops rounded up all the bad guys and said, "Here's all the bad guys," and Bill Gates and everybody's over here now, and would the world collectively in this state of consciousness say, kill all those MFs? Or would they
No.
or would they see this from a level of universal compassion, where the ability to have those, I would call ninth dimensional perspectives, where you can see from every angle, would those be what supersede any of the old, revenge, and keeping that, perpetuating warlike,
There's no more
stuff.
war.
That's right. Yeah,
The planet is vibrating at too high of a frequency for a war to happen. These people saying that there's going to be a nuclear war. You know what? They've been talking about nuclear war since the day I was born. Do it. Like,
yeah,
why are you talking about it all the time? That's
yeah,
how fake it is, right? But
yeah,
I just think that even with these other people who have done these dark things, their souls have to evolve too. And if they are um, aliens or star beings from other planets, they're going to have to go because they're not going to be able to survive here energetically. They're going to be
yeah,
in so much suffering. They
yeah.
cannot maintain. And that's why there's so much intensity going on right now with the um, mind controls because they're desperate. I mean, they're they've lost already. All we're watching now is a performance, and anybody that they can feed off of, they're feeding off of it. And that's why I don't watch any of it. I don't know what's going on with Trump. I don't know what's going on with Bulgaria. Or I don't. You know what? My focus is 100%, and I don't mean love and light. Obviously, I'm doing my shadow work, but my focus is on building yours. That's where my energy goes. I don't want to
Yeah.
know Trump, Obama, blah. What has that got to do with me? That's a
Yeah.
dead world. It's a dead world, and any ounce of energy you pay to those storylines keeps them alive. That's
That's
my
right.
philosophy.
Here, here.
So
Yeah.
You know what I
touche.
mean? I'm
Yeah,
just at
that's
a point now. I'm like, we need to
no.
build. Let's start building. Let's just start building newer.
Well,
Let's
I
come
think I
together.
yeah,
You know, I mean, we're
yes,
doing it. We're doing it like you're right. We're doing it individually, but I still think that I don't know. I just
I
whatever
agree with
calling
you.
I'm getting is like, let's just build. Stop feeding our life force to these stories. That's all they are. All the words the stage, right? Let's just
Right.
start building. Let's start putting some new systems in place, some new
I agree with you.
ways, so that we
Yeah.
can get our heaven on earth. Is what we're here to live.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I just want to say too, before we head out of here, that
Yeah.
there are, again, when Soulogy first was created in a group in 2012, it was 96, 95% women, right?
Mm.
And now it's probably 75, right?
Oh,
Uh, and
nice.
I think that's indicative of what's happening collectively. You're seeing more and more masculines in form come to the table, and young people.
Nice. Nice.
But what I'm saying is that the foundation of this whole movement, if you will, has been in the feminine, has been in the mother's energy, the return of the mother, right? And if you kind of extrapolate that into the individual, primarily feminine in form, okay, they are the same thing you are. And they are the vast majority of this grid, which is really an etherical grid first and foremost. You could call it the New Earth grid. And they have these same characteristics. Everybody gets fed, everybody has a place to live.
Right.
Let's build these new infrastructures and
Yes.
organizational
Yes.
structures and so on and so on. And that's a real thing. And no, are you going to read about that in the paper or this or that? No. But these that 80%, whatever you want to call it, that energy complex of these females in form, I'm not taking anything away from the brothers or me. I'm just saying as an example, they are the vast majority of this field. They're not going to be fucked with. The universal energy is behind them. And that in itself is taking care of business, especially as more and more energies join it, and
Well,
and it
and
and as you know, things happen in the energetic field before they happen in the physical. So your vision and your dream, like I was saying earlier, keep going, because I've heard so many, even this year, saying the same thing. It's like walking soft with a big stick, and it's taking root now. I believe it started taking root the first of this year.
it's time to build. It's time to build.
Yeah.
That's the message I've been getting for a while now. But the only thing I would like to put out there, I don't know, I guess I'm linked to my Facebook page on this or what?
Yeah, you should put your Facebook link, put it
And my
on, put it on the Facebook live, and then I'll put
and
it
my
on.
YouTube channel. My YouTube, like what I just want to put out to people
Yeah,
that I'm here to provide guidance and support and tools for mind mastery, staying out of fear, like anything I can help people with that I've walked or learned myself. I'm happy to. I really want to put that out there,
right
and
on.
that they can reach me on Facebook. A Gateway of Wisdom. Like I don't know how I'm going to do this yet. Like if I'm just going to do videos or if I can do some teachings with people. Like just I'm just really wanting to help people get out of fear and get grounded and get
Right on.
focused on the good things that are happening on the planet, right? So,
Right on. Yeah.
yeah, thank you for this
And
opportunity.
yeah. Thank you for coming on. It was a long time coming. Yeah, I would put your links on the Facebook video, and
Yeah,
also on YouTube at Soulogy One Studios. So
okay.
it's a different, it's Soulogy One Studios on YouTube. And then
I,
there's an X link as well. And if you're on X, and then of course the Facebook one. Okay.
okay, all right,
So
perfect.
so that way people can find you for sure. And
Yeah.
yeah, we should do this again sometime, compare
Oh my
notes and
gosh.
see what's
Yeah.
happening. Just on a personal level. So where are you headed now? You're not in Canada now, are you?
No, I went from Mexico. Came back to the Caribbean. It's an island that I've lived in off and on for years now. And
Okay.
yeah, so I left Mexico last year.
Okay.
Came here, went back, came here. So this is more like home for me than Canada is. And it's damn
Gotcha.
cold there. You got to be insane to live in Alberta this time of
I
year.
know.
It's like, what
It's
was
crazy
I
now.
thinking?
It's crazy now.
Yeah.
I think I have. I just lost another pair of shorts. They
Oh
broke,
no.
but I think I have 4 pairs of shorts, probably like maybe 7 t-shirts, 1 pair of sandals,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much it. You know
You
what I
know
mean?
what? I got a carry-on. I have a carry-on that I got from a pilot. That's how small it is. And I have a
Uh-huh.
small backpack that I bought in Mexico. And that's it. That's all I
Yeah,
own on the
yeah,
planet. It's
yeah.
very freeing. When you got to go, you can be packed in half an hour. Just get up and
Yeah.
go, right?
There you go. Well,
Especially
Lori,
when you got to
thank
dart out of some
uh,
dark place.
Lori, thank you a lot for coming in.
Thank you.
We
Thank you for the work.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you for coming in. Are you there? Oh yeah. We got another show in 3 hours with Gareth Jenkins and Katie Kiss. They come on every once a week at this time. Very, very extraordinary show. And I want to thank everybody too for the love and support and contributions that allow us to keep doing this every day. And yeah, we'll see you, Lori, down the road. Blessings of peace, grace, and love to you and to all your endeavors and those people that you're interacting with. And I'll see you either on this side, the other side, or both.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for the work you're doing for us all.
All right.
Bless.